We have Judith Fox. We know what's going on. Bernard Guthrie. Am I muted?
I'm here.
Okay. Bill Feldkamp,
Here.
Judith Just,
Here.
Ozzie Ona, and Robert Dorenzo.
Here.
You have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Wonderful. We will dispense with the Pledge of Allegiance and go directly to additions, deletions, and reordering.
Hello,
Hello, Ozzy.
I am here. I have some issues. Finally,
I can see you.
Okay.
finally I connect myself. Hello, how are
Okay.
you, everybody?
I
Okay.
guess
So
you
we
can hang up.
Sorry, I tried to call you. I'm sorry. It's me. Don't hang up.
okay, Ozzie, I have you.
All right. Thank you.
I can't see you, but we have you on the.
Go to your
Meanwhile,
little video. There
There
you
you
go.
are. There you are. Beautiful.
are there any additions or deletions or reordering of the agenda? Mr. Hodges?
Not tonight, Mr. Chairman.
All right, then we'll go ahead. Could I get a motion for approval of the minutes? of
I
the
move
last-
to approve the minutes from last meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All right, swearing in. How do we do swearing in of staff and applicants?
We have any? Do we have applicants?
Yes.
We have one.
Mr.
Okay.
Purdy, if you can enable your camera and unmute, please.
Okay, Ms. Cole, you're going to give the oath.
There we go. Okay. So everyone who plans to give testimony this evening, Mr. Purdy, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, I can. Everyone who plans to give testimony, please raise your right hand. Do you swear and affirm the testimony you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say yes.
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 Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have proof of publication. I don't think there's any.
Provided in
doubt
the
on
meeting
that.
packet. Mhm.
Yes. No withdrawals or postponements.
Nope.
Okay. Let's move past the consent and the public hearings and the board disclosures. Any board disclosures?
No.
Nope. As usual, I drove past the project for this month.
I am very familiar with the property. I know Miss Sunila, and I have done work for her in the past, but with windows and everything else, I should be neutral.
Okay, thank you. No unfinished business. Let's move right into the new business. Mr. Hodges, you're on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. For the record, this is Jordan Hodges, Senior Historic Preservation Coordinator for the City of Lake Worth Beach, and I'll be presenting this item before you this evening. This is HRPB project number 20-001-00126, and it is a consideration of a certificate of appropriateness for window and door replacement for the property located at 534 South Palm Way. The property owner is requesting a certificate of appropriateness for exterior alterations to replace the structure's existing windows and doors. The subject property is located at the northeast corner of South Palm Way and 6th Avenue South in the single-family residential zoning district. So a little bit about the structure. It was constructed circa 1925 in a Mission Revival architectural style. And although no architectural drawings of the building are available in the city's property file, we do have a property card from 1944, which shows some information. The structure's character-defining features include a flat roof with decorative curved parapet, a second-story sleeping porch, and a first-floor open porch with arched openings. Here are some historic photographs of the building, illustrating the original windows for the property. And those windows include wood casement windows, which were our typical 8-light casements. and then wood double hung windows with vertical 3/1 and 4/1 patterns. These window types were the predominant window for this style of architecture during the time of the building's construction. And we do have multiple examples of mission revival structures through the city that still retain these window types. This is a structure as it sits today. The photos show the property, these photos show the property as visible from 6th Avenue South. Permit records over time do indicate some changes to the property, including several interior alterations, electrical and air upgrades, carport addition, and then window replacement. So these photos show the property is visible from South Palmway. And today, the majority of the windows, again, are replacement single hung and horizontal slider windows. This is the rear of the property, which would be the north elevation. As you can see, there have been some sliding glass doors installed over the years, and then the second story porch. And this is the west elevation, I believe, is visible from South Palmway.
North.
Okay, so the city's
North elevation.
preservation design guidelines do provide guides for compatible window and door replacement for historic structures. And as we've discussed several times, windows and doors are amongst the most important character defining architectural features, but they are also one of the most commonly replaced items on a building. But generally, when replacing windows in a historic district, the new product should match the original features in design, color, texture, and other visual qualities, and where possible, material. But in the design guidelines, examples are provided as a most successful example, a successful example, and an unsuccessful replacement option. Okay, so the following slides are going to detail the applicant's proposed windows and doors for each elevation, and then staff's recommendation for the most successful replacement, which would be in the highest compliance with the preservation design guidelines. So on the left here, you can see the historic photographs. In the center is what the applicant is proposing, and on the right are staff's recommendations, again, in accordance with the design guidelines. So that center column, you can see what the applicant is proposing. And for every window, the applicant is proposing either a 4/1 or a 6/1 vinyl single hung window. And also they're replacing the front door, and they're proposing a aluminum 15 light French door. On the right column, you can see the staff recommendation. And staff is recommending a wood clad, or aluminum impact product. As you can see, the old single hung openings, staff is recommending that the applicant replicate the historic window configurations with either a 3/1 or 4/1 divided light pattern with the vertical panes. And then in that projecting sleeping porch, which used to be the wood casements, staff is recommending either triplets of casements or third horizontal rollers in those openings with 8 lights per leaf to replicate the old casement appearance. Okay, so this is going to be the west elevation. Again, similar proposal. The applicant is requesting to do 4/1 single hungs in every opening with a triplet down at the bottom in the larger opening. And again, staff is recommending for a combination of single hung windows with the vertical divided light pattern, and then a 50/50 horizontal roller, or a pair of casements in the sleeping porch, replicating that old casement appearance. Very similar for the north elevation. Again, the applicant's proposing the 6/1 vinyl single hungs. And based on the opening sizes, staff is recommending the vertical 4/1 single hungs, and then a pair of 6 light casements, or a 50/50 horizontal roller. And then on the rear, again, on the sleeping porch, staff is recommending the casement appearance in the windows, And at the top, the applicant is again recommending proposing the 4/1 single hung. And then there is a combination of sliding glass doors, and staff is recommending that those just go back with the sliding glass doors. Staff is also recommending, if you look at the text on the boxes, again, the window frame that the applicant is proposing is vinyl, aluminum frame doors, white frame colors. And the applicant is proposing a raised grid, and then a clear low E or a clear glass. The only thing that really changes in staff's recommendations would be staff is recommending a wood clad or aluminum window product, and then either a white or bronze frame with staff's providing that option. And then the staff is recommending an exterior raised triangular mutton to create the divided light patterns. So the staff recommended window and door replacement that we just went through could be approved administratively at permitting. The window and door replacement as proposed cannot be approved administratively, as the window types, frame material, and divided light patterns are a change in design from the original window configuration. One of the most common character defining features of Mission Revival residential architecture in South Florida are the sleeping porches, which we've just touched on. These porches are featured on single and two-story Mission Revival residences, and they typically always face east or south to catch the prevailing winds. These porches are generally a single room that project out from the primary mass of the building, and they were typically either screened in or utilized large casement windows that opened outward so that the entire window opening could be used for ventilation. And staff is recommending that the replacement window types used in these sleeping porches either be the pairs and triplets of casements or the horizontal rollers instead of the single hungs to differentiate that room and to really replicate what was there historically. In addition, the applicant is proposing to install windows with vinyl frames. When we're replicating original wood windows, staff typically always recommends that the applicant utilize wood-clad, aluminum, or fiberglass frames, as they are the most historically compatible options for material design and overall proportions of a window. Vinyl frame windows are typically not viewed as a compatible material, and due to the thick frame proportions compared to aluminum windows and the limited range option of the muttons. For an example of what staff is recommending, the property located at 331 South Federal Highway has recently undergone a window replacement. This was approved administratively with new aluminum single hung windows. They have a 4/1 vertical pattern for the single hung windows, which is what we are requesting. And then 8 light horizontal roller windows to replicate the casements that would have originally been on that casement porch. So this is a good representation of what should be on a building of this time period, and from photographic evidence what was there. Again, all exterior alterations to structures within a designated historic district are subject to our visual compatibility criteria. Staff has reviewed that documentation and materials provided in this application and outlined the applicable guidelines and standards. But it is the analysis of staff that the proposed window and door replacement results in a substantial change in the structure's appearance. And although it is an improvement from the existing replacement windows, the proposed window replacement does not successfully replicate the original windows in a manner that complements the architectural significance of the structure. The proposed window and door replacement is also atypical amongst similar neighboring properties. This is a structure at 601 South Lakeside Drive, which is right across the street. This building does retain its original casement and double hung windows. The subject property and 601 South Lakeside were constructed during the same time period, And 601 still has its original windows and utilizes a combination of vertically paned hung windows and casements. So in conclusion, the window and door replacement, subject to the conditions of approval, would be consistent with the comprehensive plan, the historic preservation ordinance, and the historic preservation design guidelines in the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation. If you would like, staff can go through the conditions of approval just so the board is familiar with how this was structured, and then we can hand it over to the applicant.
Yes, if you would go through the conditions, please.
So the first condition of approval is that the replacement windows shall utilize wood-clad aluminum or fiberglass frames with proportions that successfully replicate the original wood windows, subject to staff review at permitting. Remember that the applicant is requesting vinyl, so should you approve as written, it would require a change in material. Condition number 2, the replacement single hung windows shall utilize vertical mutton patterns to match the original windows, subject to staff review at permitting. Remember, the applicant's proposal does utilize a 4 and 6/1, traditional pattern. We're requesting a change to a vertical pattern. Item 3, the replacement windows for openings that originally utilized casement windows, and that would be in reference to the sleeping porch, shall be replaced with horizontal rollers, casements, or fixed windows. Divided light patterns shall match the original configuration, subject to staff review at permitting. Remember, the applicant is requesting the same type of single hung window in every opening for the building. So this would be a change in the windows being proposed for the sleeping porch. Number 4, all divided light patterns shall be created utilizing exterior raised applied muttons. That's a standard condition. Number 5, the windows shall be replaced in their original openings, and the openings shall not be made smaller by building in the framing or made larger by expanding the opening, unless otherwise recommended by the board. There are some windows on that sleeping porch that appear to have gotten smaller over the time. That is why that condition is, or that is why number 5 is conditioned that way. And, we could certainly discuss that and if the applicant would be open to it. Item 6, standard condition as well, that the windows shall be recessed in the jambs and shall not be installed flush with the exterior wall. Item 7 is our typical glass condition, that it shall utilize clear glass or glass with a clear Lowy coating. The applicant's proposal is currently in compliance with that. And that number 8, all existing window sills and mullions shall remain. If too deteriorated for continued use, these elements shall be replaced in kind, matching in material, profile, size, shape, and location. And that is a typical standard as well. Okay, that concludes staff's presentation.
Okay, thank you for staff. Thank you to staff. Does the applicant want to add or say anything in addition to?
Yes.
Okay, who are we hearing from?
This is Inge Sunila, the owner of the property.
Yes. Have you been sworn in?
I haven't.
But if you want, I can explain to you what she's looking for.
Yeah, Mike
'Cause I haven't.
Purdue is my contractor. So
All right.
may I speak?
Go ahead.
So basically, there are 2 different proposals now. There's the drawings we submitted, and then there's the staff recommendation, most successful replacement. And I really like what the town has been doing here. So these windows are way beyond what I was wishing we could be doing. So these are absolutely fantastic, so whoever did this did a wonderful job. So auto light division, we would like to go with the staff recommendation.
Wonderful.
The only hesitation I have at this point that you want to have aluminum replacing the original wood. And the reason I proposed vinyl windows is that they are Energy Star rated and the aluminum windows are not. Vinyl has been coming a long way as a construction material. It is the same size than the aluminum windows. So if you are looking from the roadside, they are going to be looking identical, but the vinyl windows have Energy Star rating. Also, when you look at closer, they are manufactured differently. So the aluminum windows, they have kind of industrial contemporary look that I would not like to have in a historical building. And the vinyl windows, they have metered corners. So it actually has the visual elements of wood. However, this is not critical. So if you, for some reason, really dislike vinyl in these historical replacement windows, I am willing of going with the staff recommendations as they are presented here today.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and you have a wonderful house there.
As you can see on the corners, you can see what she's talking about, where the aluminum ones are all square edged put together, and whereas the vinyls have the 45s on them. So they look more like a real casement, you know, like the real wood windows that were in there once before.
And they all have raised muntins, correct?
Yes, sir, they do. And we can have them made up the way that we were looking at there with the new drawings. And they are, whoever did those drawings did a great job in your office there.
Yeah. Mr. Hodges, who did those drawings? They are excellent.
Abraham did them.
Great job, Abraham.
Yeah, he does. He's very, very skilled at that.
Artistic. They look
All
very
right,
nice. But as you can see, the difference between the vinyl and the aluminum, the size factors are the same. But if you look at the corners and the way it's been built, the manufacturing of it, it looks more like a wood window than an aluminum commercial window.
And the reason why they are so compact and same size than the aluminum windows is that they have steel frame.
Well, they have aluminum frames.
Uh-huh. All right.
So of course, we houses used to have aluminum sidings, and now we have vinyl sidings. So there's development of the materials. That's why I give this as an opportunity, a way for a future. Saving energy is very important for me. I am an environmentalist, and these windows are going to be there for a long, long time. They are going to be there even when I don't live in this house anymore.
Excellent. All right, if that concludes your presentation, can we get questions from board members? Mr. Dorinzo?
I'm okay.
You're okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Ona?
I am okay also.
All right. Chip?
I'm happy that Inca is going with the staff recommendations. I think they're very well put together. And I think it's going to end up looking like it's going to really fit in nicely with the neighborhood with those windows as staff recommended. So thank you, Inca.
Do you have a preference of the aluminum or the vinyl?
I had conversations with staff earlier today about, because I have experience with vinyl, and apparently technology has come a long way, and vinyl is a little bit more accepting from staff. We used to have an absolute ban on vinyl windows, and they've come a long way. However, the light patterns that they're showing and the rollers, like they showed on 331 South Federal Highway, I mean, it's very similar, and that's what they're recommending for this. And if she can replicate that, it's going to look really nice.
Okay.
So either way she goes, if she wants, she might be able to look into the fiberglass windows as well, because I understand that they might have a Energy Star rating, and she can still do what staff recommended on that.
Thank you. Ms. Fox?
I'm fine with it. I'm going to assume there's no wood being discussed, correct?
No, apparently not, yeah. And Ms. Just? We can't hear you.
I'm okay with it. I think the vinyl window actually is more attractive than the aluminum in this situation. It has a lot more depth to the
Right.
frame. And
Oh,
my understanding is one of the reasons we were moving away from vinyl is because the quality wasn't very good. And if the quality is better, there's no reason not to use it. That's my opinion. So I'm okay with either.
So if you all don't mind, I'd like to step in for just a quick moment. This product is manufactured by a company called Eastern, and I don't remember reviewing this product before.
Correct.
Typically, with most manufacturers, they're vinyl, they'll offer an aluminum single hung and they'll offer a vinyl single hung. The aluminum frames on the majority of manufacturers are very, very slim, and they're, kind of dainty like a wood or a steel window used to be. Whereas the vinyl windows have a much thicker frame to them. This manufacturer, you can see on the screen that, the frame sizes are, around the windows are about the same size. They're both a little bit larger than we typically approve. So in this case, and this is completely up for your discussion, is the aluminum a better profile, and is that why you're choosing it? Or, if you find them both to be a little bit, or both to be compatible, staff is open to your material choice.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good discussion for you all to have.
Okay. I have a couple of comments. In general, to the owner, I think this is a wonderful house, and we thank you. I don't know you personally, but thank you for taking good care of this treasure. I do want to say, I was in St. Petersburg recently, drove around the old historic neighborhoods, and was struck by the paint colors. Now, we have no say as an HRPB over paint colors here in Lake Worth Beach, but virtually all of the houses in St. Petersburg had a sash color and a frame color, and the colors were wonderfully different, an Indian red with a Loden green and so on. That said, I know the approval issues permit either white or bronze, I think. I would certainly prefer white, such that the owner, if she is interested, could paint the mullions, the jambs, the heads, the sills in a different color and be more historically correct. That's so. Other than that, I noticed that the cost difference between the vinyl and the aluminum is not major. It does not trigger a section of our code. So I'm happy with either or, the vinyl or the aluminum. Mr. Hodges did mention the possibility of reopening those sleeping porch windows, which were originally much larger and much more interesting. If I don't think we can require the applicant to open them, but they are wonderful, and they might, if you decide to do it, might give you much more light in that room. And then the last issue I had is just to make sure definitely that we do not get tinted glass or in here. I noticed that 331 South Federal, Mr. Hodges, was that tinted glass or was that just the low E at South Federal?
It's a low E. I noticed that it did look dark, and I went back and looked at a few approvals, and I think that the bronze or the black frames and additionally how much they're set back in the wall tend to make the windows a little bit darker. But we did go through and look at them, and there's no gray tint on them, but they do look a little dark.
Yeah, again, from looking at the historic district in St. Petersburg, there was virtually no house there that had windows that did not look like clear glass from the 20s. So Well, I'm happy. Any other comments from outside? Any public comment? Hearing none, can I hear a motion?
Before let me just go here. So condition number 1 did change the applicant's request from a vinyl to wood, wood-clad, or aluminum or fiberglass. So if you all are comfortable with the vinyl, you could add the word vinyl in there.
All right. So someone making a motion may want to add vinyl to item number 1. Any other issues? All right, can I hear a motion?
I'll make it.
I would, but I didn't get any, I don't have anything.
I
in
don't
front of
have the motion, yes.
I'll make the motion. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I move to approve HRPB project number 20-001-00126 with staff recommended conditions for certificate of appropriateness for window and door replacement property located at 534 South Palm Way. With the one change to condition number 1 to include vinyl windows based upon the competent substantial evidence in the staff report and pursuant to the City of Lake Worth Beach land development regulations and historic preservation requirements.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Just, seconded by Mr. Guthrie. Any additional discussion?
Oh, can I make one more comment? Is the vinyl as presented? In the, I guess, those are the vinyl windows we're seeing, right?
Yes. It would be the vinyl windows as presented.
Yeah.
The samples there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's called the Bertha because of the wind loading.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you, Mr. Purdy.
Mhm.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much and best of luck. You have a wonderful house there.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, Ika.
And come to visit when you walk by, because there are original fireplaces inside and Peggy Cypress ceilings and all kind of stuff like that. It's really, really cool house.
Yeah,
It
I
is a
will be
cool
there.
house.
and we love your railroad vine overtaking everything in the yard.
Yeah, I don't like that concrete, so I'm letting it take over neighborhood.
Good for you. All right, folks, moving on to the next
Thank you.
item.
Thank you. All right.
Item B, which I presume will be presented by who, Mr. Waters or,
It'll actually be me, Mr. Chair, Aaron.
okay, Ms.
Aaron
Sita.
Pita.
Wonderful.
So
Okay.
are you guys ready to go?
Yes, go ahead.
As you recall, well, let me just go back for you here. We brought at the, I think it was the meeting before last, we brought a packet of the first round of our 2020 LDRs to you that address parking and some other issues. So now we are on to round 2. In March of this year, we had a list that's been I guess been added to over the years that we were never quite able to get to. And the City Commission basically in a workshop asked us to proceed with the completion of that list. And we've been moving forward with that expeditiously this year. There's 2 ordinances before you as part of that packet tonight in our round 2 of our LDRs. Amendments. This particular ordinance addresses 2 parts of the Code of Ordinances. One is a Chapter 2, and the other is to our typical Chapter 23 land development regulations. You can see the sections there, and I'm going to walk you through all of these items. So the first, you should, in your packet, you should have the staff report as well as the ordinances. You can see that there's going to be an exhibit on each one of these summaries, and that exhibit will let you know about where the text is located for what I'm addressing. So this is in chapter 2. This is an administration. There are some fees that are basically outside of our normal LDRs in there. And the city, like most cities and local governments in Florida, has been shifting to consolidate their fees into the official schedule of fees, or which is reviewed and adopted by the city commission annually. That consolidated fees allows us to make sure everything's up to date and it's located in one central location. So that was a housekeeping issue that's being addressed. The next section, which is an exhibit B of your ordinance, this addresses general provisions. What we're moving forward with is the adoption of a digital official zoning and future land use map. And feel free to stop me if you need to. So then in Exhibit C, we have general provisions in the definition section. This series of definitions were amended to provide clarity with regard to building lot coverage, overall lot coverage, and permeable and impermeable surfaces. This is in Exhibit D, addresses the site plan review process. And just to clarify the distinction between what is a major site plan and a minor site plan, major site plans go to a board, minor site plans are processes are approved administratively by staff. Exhibit E, this is in our zoning Article 3 zoning districts. Again, this is the second area which is being amended to allow for the official zoning and official future land use map to be managed digitally. Then we have Article 4, which is in Chapter 23, which is our development standards. This addresses fences, walls, and gates. And this proposed amendment, it's going to provide additional regulations and details regarding perimeter fencing, materials for all zoning districts, as well as some additional clarity needed for visibility triangles. Exhibit G, this is addresses development standards again. This is tied into the as you can see, the main heavy lift in this section of LDRs was permeable, impermeable surfaces, and this is just a discussion of that, the acceptable materials for off-street parking. That is part of that major update there. And then again, for outdoor storage, this has to deal with fencing, and so that's why this is here. Or sorry, no, outdoor storage clarifies. Outdoor storage is just a clarification of where outdoor storage is allowed, and then environmental regulations. This is what is this addresses the fencing provisions. So our recommendation is we're asking you to recommend to the City Commission to adopt the subject draft ordinance for this HRPB project.
Does that conclude your presentation?
Concludes my presentation. If you have any
All right.
questions, I'm here. Most of these are housekeeping items or internal questions that we've gotten, or the way that we apply the code, and we just want to make sure it's super clear and very internally consistent. So a lot of this is just basically cleanup.
Wonderful. Board members, any questions? Ms. Just.
I'm looking to see if I made any notes. You can come back to me, okay?
I didn't quite understand that, but
I
Mr.
said
Durin-
I'm looking to see if I have any notes in the text
Oh.
here. Okay.
All right. Mr. Dorinzo.
I'm fine with what I saw.
All right. Mr. Guthrie.
I found one typo, if anybody's interested. Page 18, operational standards, and C, interior and exterior surveillance for security purposes required and shall be maintained for a minimum of a 14-something period. I believe it's probably day.
Wow, I found the same one. Page 18, line 738. Scrivener's error.
But other than that, I had a couple other questions on the graph, and I spoke with Ms. Sita today, and she was very, between conversations with her and Abraham and Jordan, I was made clear on many different things today. So I'm all for recommending this to the commission.
All right, thank you. Mr. Ona?
Thank you very much. It was a hard work. We need this to clarify all the, but my question is, we have enough manpower to enforce this order? Because you see a lot of garbage around the city, but can we enforce all this? Or just will be in the paper?
So typically how we enforce land development regulations is an item will come through at building permit or we'll review a site plan. So all these regulations are basically, it's modifications to regulations that we already enforce and require as we review sites that come in for new development. So yes, we can enforce this through the plan review process.
Can you enforce something already exists in the property? Or is there no way we can do it?
So if you have something, and maybe if I'm not answering your question, if you have something that was already permitted and approved prior to this change, and most of this is just clarification. There's not really a huge amount of radical substantive change in here. A lot of this is just clarification. But if you were to have something that came in and was approved and the code changed, then you become a legal nonconformity. And until you replace, just as a general rule of thumb, more than 50% of that, the value of that structure, then that would be allowed to continue to exist. But most of this is not going to create, there might be a few little like, a few maybe dumpster enclosures or something that didn't have landscaping and then need landscaping, things like that. But for the most part.
No, thank you very much for your hard work.
Yep. Thank you. See, Ms. Fox?
One question I have is, can you define what you mean by storage? I mean, is that a shed for storage? Is that just stuff piled up there? What is storage?
So in that section refers to outdoor storage. And outdoor storage is really just that. It's an industrial use. So outdoor storage in industrial districts, outdoor storage shall be permitted only as accessory to an approved principal use. Outdoor storage of equipment, vehicles, boats, parts, materials, or chemicals are required to be stored on an impervious paved surfaces to reduce pollutants and stormwater runoff. So the change there is we want to make it really clear that outdoor storage is accessory. It was always accessory, but we wanted to make it easy for people to find and to understand that in our code. So again, that's not a substantive change. And an impervious paved surface is the requirement for all NPDES permits, which is our National Pollution Stormwater Discharge Permit. And that is a standard for outdoor storage, especially of vehicles and boats or other equipment that may leak oils or other types of chemicals. You want them stored on those types of items. So that's definitely something that we put in there at the zoning level that we can catch and make sure that we're seeing that on the site plan. So it's not missed.
Okay, so it's basically you're talking industrial as opposed to residential.
Yes, there's no change to any of the residential storage provisions. That was you can see on page 23 of the ordinance, the subsection A addresses residential storage. There's no struck through and underline in there. It's the only changes to the industrial districts.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from board members?
Yeah, I have a question now. When it comes to fences, walls, and gates, at what point does a hedge become a wall? Because we have a lot of that goes on where people actually put in a hedge that is essentially a wall and it exceeds the height limits.
Well, I'm going to let William correct me if I'm wrong, but we are going to be addressing landscaping in our next batch of LDRs. And I believe that hedge height is not regulated and at this time. And that is something we can look at in our next batch, but that's kind of outside of the scope of this. It's not a wall or a fence. It's a landscaping product.
Okay.
Ms. Just, William Waters for the record. To remind you, there was some discussion of hedges, I believe, almost 2 years ago at the city commission level. And there was not general consensus on how to regulate what would be the height. When does it become a wall? When does it become too tall? And so staff got not the clearest direction on what to do about hedges. We will come back with a recommendation in our next round and we'll see where that ends up.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have 3 comments and a question. First one is my opinion on hedges is there is no height that is too high. That's my opinion. Second, I'm a little surprised that we are even as the HRPB reviewing these LDRs, but it's nice to do. Third comment, I really, really, really like the electronic mapping that you folks have put together. Whoever did it deserves kudos. The city website is spectacular now. So whoever's been doing it, thank you, thank you. Section 23.4-4, the visibility triangle. God, I wish there were a way that we could force people to abide by that, even if they're not coming in for permitting. There are so many terrible, terrible visibility triangles in this town. Is that something that maybe can be addressed by code compliance or by anyone? Mr. Waters?
Chairman Faircamp, yes, and we've beefed up in some respects surveillance, I guess, in a way of people with the visibility triangles. There are now staff in refuse and public services that have been through the Florida Association of Code Enforcement training and will be able to cite people or even do notices of violation in regards to a variety of things, one of them being trash, Mr. Ona. So there can be more eyes on the street that actually can deal with the trash issue, and having more clear, definitive rules when it comes to life safety gives us a stronger ability to hold people accountable when the visibility triangle is not there. So this is going to be very helpful when we do get back to a normal sort of operational efforts when it comes to code compliance once we're past COVID.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. That's good news. And then I have a question, probably for Mr. Waters. A lot of these changes seem to have to do with contractor showroom or contractor with retail component.
Well, Mr. Belkamp, that's actually in the next ordinance. We'll get to that. And this ordinance is only, the
Yep. You're
fencing
right.
and the other things.
Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. My next were wrong. All right. Is there any public comment on this? Other than that, can I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion that we recommend to the city commission to adopt the proposed LDR text amendments included in PZB/HRPB project number 20-031-000003.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Guthrie, seconded by Ms. Fox.
Yes.
Any further discussion? Then all in favor, aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, we're into our last item, and I assume Ms. Sita is going to present that.
Yes, that's me too.
Okay, go for it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next item, this is the other half of, or the second half of the component of our round 2 of our LDR amendments for 2020. And what we did is we kind of divided the baby here, is we took a lot of our technical items, and then we separated out the use items. So we are amending the definition sections again, but what we're amending in this ordinance is we're amending only definitions and things related to uses. Again, this is part of that whole component of LDR series that the City Commission asked us to initiate this year. There's going to be 3 sections I'm going to be walking you through. The first section is going to be use definitions, then it's going to be our use tables, and then our administrative uses and conditional uses development standards. And once again, these are all focused on uses, performance standards for uses, and then the permitted use table overhaul. One of the things that you'll see in the definition sections is that there's a lot of consolidation of uses. And this is something that's happening really region-wide and has occurred over the last 10 years in Florida. Is a lot of very old codes had very, very specific defined uses. You know, there was a barber shop and then there was a hair salon. You know, you don't need a barber shop, you don't need a hair salon. Those uses essentially are personal grooming uses, and they have the same function, the same, you know, they're allowed in the same districts with the same level of review. So a big lift of this is the consolidation of uses and also the clarification of some of the existing uses. In addition, so the example I gave you was personal grooming. You'll also see there was a clarification of repair and maintenance services uses, kind of broken down into 3 categories or 3 levels of intensity related to those uses. And then those uses are allowed then in different districts with different levels of review based on the intensity of that group of, or that basket of uses that it describes. In addition, we also, not new uses, we allowed microbreweries before, but we're kind of seeing a trend for microbreweries or microdistilleries now, which is happening. And then we also added the new use of the specialty brewery and distillery, and with those supplementary standards as well. So walking through the first section, again, this is a major overhaul. You can see all the definitions of the uses, some are clarifying, some adding, creating these baskets of uses. And what I will add is that, for example, the way that the uses are now structured allows flexibility in the sense that you may have, a business may be comprised of more than one use. So for example, we have a 7-Eleven we are reviewing outside of the historic district. It's on 10th Avenue Northwest of 95. Well, that particular project has a use of a filling station as well as a single destination retail use, which is a convenience store use. And if they were to have, they don't, but if you were to have a gas station with those uses and you wanted to also repair something, then you would use auto repair minor or vehicle repair minor. That's how we're kind of looking when you're looking at a project or a business that may have several uses, that's okay. If you have any questions about a specific use or how they're broken down, I can stop here and you can ask me those questions, or I can go on and talk about the use table itself and how that's changed. Okay, I'm gonna
go ahead with the use table.
Okay, so again, here's the use table. We're going to move forward. And you can see here, I just wanted to show you that in the use table, this is called our permitted use tables, because all of these uses may be permissible within the city. Now they're permissible in 3 different ways. One is the P way, which is permitted by right, which means you can go get a building permit and you can get a use and occupancy inspection and a building license or a business license. And then that would allow you to have those uses. Then there is an A, which is administrative use permit. That is a staff level review. And what we do is we review for against a set of criteria to make sure that there's no impact maybe on adjacent residential, or that there's no outside activity where it's not permitted, things of those nature. And then there is the C, the conditional use, which I'm sure that you all have heard. You've probably seen some conditional uses go before your board. A C requires a board approval. If there is a proposed development in the historic district and is requesting a conditional use, that use would go before you. So again, this is an example. We tried to highlight in the table to make it a little easier to draw the eye of where the changes are. We try to highlight that text in red. And obviously stricken text is being removed, underlined text is being added. And you can see, again, there's a lot of hobby shop, grocery store, gift boutiques, convenience stores. Those are being consolidated into these larger kind of use baskets. Then you'll also note that there's a couple columns that are being proposed for deletion. One of them is the plan development column. And the reason why we're proposing the plan development column for deletion is it was confusing, because really the way plan developments work in the city is that you have an underlying zoning district. And it's really that underlying zoning district that gives you the fundamental uses. So what it appears is in the column is that you're actually taking away all of that entitlement through a plan development, which is not how our plan developments work at all. And so it was very confusing and it just wasn't necessary. It also just made the table bigger and more unwieldy. So we're like, let's get rid of that. And the same for the FEC overlay and the same for the hotel overlay. The additional use flexibility built into these overlays is tied in with very specific criteria or conditions. And so to look at those in the use table doesn't really lend itself to a clear understanding of what can occur in the district. So for basically to allow for more clarity in the application of the code, we think it's best to remove these three columns. Section C, this is our administrative uses and conditional uses. This is our development standards. These are additional performance standards for certain uses in our code. Many of these uses would be vehicular or industrial. We're going to add some new standards for specialty storage, money business services, which is a new use. It is a use that's defined in the Florida statute, breweries, microbreweries, microdistilleries, and the specialty varietal of those. So I also wanted to read this one additional item into the record. When we were going back and just getting ready for this meeting, we had a little internal discussion, and what we did is we consolidated the vehicular rentals and vehicular sales, because if you look at when you're selling vehicles on a lot or you're renting vehicles on a lot, the space requirements, all of those things are pretty standard. So we kind of consolidated where those uses are permitted. But what we also wanted to do is make sure it was really clear in the code that these vehicle rental facilities would have the same supplemental standards or development standards that the vehicle sales standards have. So we're adding this to the ordinance. And you can see, again, this is just an example of how those supplementary standards are constructed. And that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm happy to walk you through all of it.
Thank you very much. Board members, comments? Anyone want to jump in?
I'm fine.
Okay, Dorinzo is fine. How about Guthrie?
Again, I had a conversation with staff earlier today, and I was checking out because I think, Chair, that you were going to say something about the contractor uses and that type of thing, and they
Yes,
seem to have been consolidated into office
Mhm.
as long as they're not using a storage yard or things like that.
Chip,
they
I just wanted
consolidate.
to add, if I may, Chip, if you have a retail component, like if you're a contractor with a retail component, that would kick you over to single destination commercial, which is permitted on Dixie Highway. But if you're just an administrative office for a contractor, that's a general office. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear.
At one point, that was not allowed in the commercial district. They wanted to put all contractors, regardless if it was just an office, in the industrial section. And so I'm glad to see that offices are allowed back in commercial again.
Okay, well, let me go through the others. Ms. Just, any comments?
No comments.
Let's see, Ms. Fox.
No comments.
Who did I miss? Anyone?
P.
Oh, Mr. Olney.
Ozzy.
Okay.
Yes, Ozzy.
I know if they have a lot of comment about brewery or alcoholic beverage, I think that will be okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, well, getting back to what Mr. Guthrie was talking about, I'm noticing a lot of items here having to do with contractor showroom and retail components of contractors, construction, storage, outdoor. You know, over the years, a lot of these changes are based on specific applicants who have come in front of the building department. I'm wondering if Ms. Sitka can tell us how these things evolved and what caused us to bring contractor issues to the front.
Well, when we looked at contractor, there was all these things, we were looking at consolidating uses. And we were kind of fundamentally talking about, because there were so many places contractor office were listed in the use table, it was a little odd. And so what we wanted to do is, as part of this effort, is to strip things back to their fundamental nature. What is it? Is it an office? Is it a single destination commercial? Is it a single destination retail? You know, what are these baskets that it can fit in? And if it can fit in the basket, it doesn't need, and it's generally has a similar approval process of those other larger groups, it really doesn't need to stand on its own. And really what makes a contractor different, and we were kind of imagining Dixie Highway and what would happen there, is really there's often a use for like a contractor showroom, right? So somebody is doing installation services, like a kitchen
Windows
design
and doors.
firm or something, and they want to show you, it's a showroom. So you're not retail purchasing an item, you're going to go there, there's going to be a showroom that's a lot of times very beautiful because they want you to spend a lot of money. And then the warehouse or the other the warehouse storage components would need to be in an industrial area or an artisanal industrial area, which is a mixed use district. So that's where this idea was born for contractor showroom, is that it's kind of that contractors have a component that's a commercial component, but they also have an industrial component. So we tried to separate out this commercial component that could be an attractive use on Dixie or in other places we allow for it to go, but would to give folks some flexibility, basically.
Okay, thank you. I have one question, and that is page 112, extended stays as conditional approval. I guess this is a more general question than just this set of graphs. What is our current thinking on extended stays on Airbnbs and so on? Is this part of Airbnb?
It is not part of Airbnb. These are like the extended stay hotel on 10th Avenue North. It is a hotel that is a expressly extended stay hotel.
There's another one that we approved on Palmway or Ocean Breeze about 6 months ago. Ocean Breeze, I think it was. Is that an extended stay hotel?
Yes, I believe it is, Chairman.
Yeah. Okay. So this
just to edify, since the public is listening, we're getting a lot of questions about the Airbnb, the short-term rentals and vacation rentals. The City Commission directed staff to do some research on what types of parameters we could put in place as a city, because our prohibition on them goes back to our being an inclusionary code. And if you read our code from front to back, you do not see specifically the use of Airbnb, vacation rental, or short-term rental as being allowed anywhere in the city. So we're putting that together. Christy Goudet with Tercivia's office is working with me. We're putting some things together. There is a subsequent workshop that needs to be scheduled. It has not yet been scheduled. There have just been not an opportunity to do that. It's a stay tuned item. It appeared the direction from the City Commission was they would be open to entertaining, allowing better short-term rentals, Airbnbs, and vacation rentals under certain parameters and performance standards. Unfortunately, the state has preempted this municipalities from putting in new parameters for them. So we're looking at what we are allowed based on the definition and interpretation of the Florida statute. and also ensuring that these do not become a problem. It has come to light, and I think Chip could probably, Mr. Guthrie could probably mention it more than I, that there has been a proliferation of bad actors when it comes to short-term rentals in the south part of the city. It seems that they've gotten kind of out of hand, and PBSO has been called numerous times, as well as co-compliance for short-term rentals that end up being a rave or a weekend-long house party. So we are trying to address those as best we can, but that's another stay tuned item as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Are we going to dump all of those into the pool of the extended stay Hyatt? I mean, are they all going to go in one area now?
No, we allow extended stay hotels, motels in several different districts. And to get back to the chairman's comment about the LDRs, I don't want the HRPB to forget that you are the planning and zoning board and function as such in all the city that is a historic district. So you have two roles, both as the Historic Preservation Board and the Planning and Zoning Board for everything that's designated historic. And so it's important that you, as a board, weigh in and give us your input when we make substantive changes to the land development regulations, because they will affect those properties, and you will see a number of new projects coming forward that are going to involve some of the changes that we are proposing.
Thank you very much for that clarification. Thank you, sir. Any other comments from the public, if there's any public listening in?
Just one more question for William. I'm still confused. If you have a house down the street that is rented as an Airbnb, is it going to go into the same bucket as a large hotel that's an extended stay hotel?
They are totally separate and different items.
Yes.
We do not allow short-term Airbnb or vacation rentals of single-family homes. The state defines those rentals as being transient lodging, which is 30 days or less. In Lake Worth Beach, we define transient lodging as 60 days or less. When and if the commission allows those three types of uses, we will delineate where they would be allowed and how they will be allowed. They will not be categorized as a hotel or a motel. They likely will be categorized as a commercial use versus a residential use. But again, it's a stay tuned item. There are a lot of parameters that we need to work through, and also understand what legally we can put in place to ensure they don't become a nuisance to the neighbors on either side of it or within the neighborhood itself.
Thank you.
Can I follow up on that, please? William?
Yep.
If they're considered a commercial use, will commercial requirements possibly come into play, such as fire alarms, monitor fire alarms, or making sure that all doorways and walkways are barrier free and things like that, which would possibly help us deter the proliferation of those in that area if it does become a commercial aspect.
That is part of what's being put on the table. It, in addition, putting on the table that they would actually be paying commercial utility rates, not residential, and that no property that has a homestead exemption could be licensed as an Airbnb, a short-term rental, or vacation rental. Because keep in mind that to have a homesteaded property, you only have to live in it 6 months and a day. So if you have a homesteaded property and you wanted to make it an Airbnb for those 5 months and 29 days, you would have to give up your homestead exemption.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, it sounds like this is all, as Mr. Waters said, stay tuned items.
It's going to be a very, very lively conversation.
Oh,
I'm sure.
That's going to be fun.
All right. Well, getting back to the item at hand, can I get a motion on HRPB project number 2004-00003?
Well, I move to recommend to the City Commission to adopt the proposed LDR text amendments included in PCB-HRPB project number 20-004 00003.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Ona, seconded by Mr. Dorenzo. Any additional comments? And hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion appears to carry unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you. These two ordinances will be monumentally improve how we do development in the city. And there are a lot of people waiting for these to go into effect. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Waters. Excellent. All right, we are now on to planning issues. Do we hear any planning issues? Mr. Hodges? No. Hearing none, we're on to public comment. Anyone in public? Ms. Ryan, do you have anything to say? No.
I'll wait till you finish. I just wanted to give a little update. I'll wait to the end. I'll let you go through.
All right.
Oh, no.
Okay, then department reports. Department reports, perhaps.
There are a couple. We are in the middle of the budget process for FY21. I'll probably have a more lengthy update for you in August. Look forward to the budget hearings in August. We've been working diligently with the applicants from Restoration St. Louis on putting together their entitlement package for the Gulfstream Hotel. We do expect it to be submitted sometime before the end of the month. If that were to happen, you will be seeing it likely in late September or early October. They're running a little bit behind. They were hoping to try to have their entitlement process completed by the early part of November. We may be calling out to you all to have a special meeting in August, the very end of August, in order to meet that schedule with the seller. So we'll keep you abreast of that. Also, the RFP for the L&M properties was extended till the end of the summer. We don't have anything more formal to let you know about yet, but that will be an application probably coming before you sometime in the latter part of the fall or the first quarter of 2021.
That's August 4th is the closing date?
Yes, I think it is.
Question, William, have the Gulfstream, have they gotten their financing?
They are working on that. There's a bit of a gap, but as I understand it, they have made quite a lot of progress toward their financing.
Okay, department reports. Any other department reports? Mr. Hodges?
I think Pamela's trying to talk.
I just wanted to give the update to the board, if you don't already know, that the commission overturned the HRPB's decision on the Dan Waleski 403 South M Street project. If you'll recall, this board approved his home with the condition that he change his driveway a bit and that he make some changes to the columns. And he appealed. And was it just last week? It feels like it was longer than that, but I think a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I'm not sure. He held a hearing.
We could go Tuesday.
Oh gosh, okay. A week and a day. And it was a very long meeting. The item lasted over an hour. And after some very heated and lengthy discussion, they decided on a 4-to-1 vote, which is what they needed. You cannot overturn your decisions on certificates of appropriateness without a supermajority vote. And they voted 4-1 to overturn your decision and allow him to keep his driveway and his porch the way he wanted to keep it.
I wish I could remember what that looked like.
I find that very disappointing, very, very disappointing.
Yes.
The commission would deign to overturn our decision as being arbitrary and capricious. That's the only method on which they can overturn our decision. So I am extremely disappointed in that. and our
Chairman,
city
we
commission.
will have a little discussion about that at a later time when we can actually meet in person or maybe later. Due to the entire history of that project, some items had come up that gave several of the commission members a platform to which they felt that the decision could be considered arbitrary, capricious, or contrary to law. And we'll go over that with you. What I would reiterate is that sometimes we may go a little too far in trying to help an applicant get to a place. And we end up making a mess out of a poor project when it would be easier just to say no and go back to the drawing board. Sometimes in our effort to work with people and make modifications here or there on an application to try to get it to something that we could accept, it ends up a bit muddled and confusing. And as you recall, that house was approved by the Preservation Board once before, in the same sort of vein of trying to work with the applicant. It probably would have been better in both cases just to have denied that house the first time and asked him to come back with an application that was appropriate per our guidelines. And I think if it had been more definitive as to the reasons we were denying that house the second time, it would have been upheld by the city commission.
And let me add to that. William is correct. They had a lot of problems. They struggled with the fact that it was approved previously, pretty much the same structure. And even though we told them it's a different board, there were some different rules involved, they still struggled with that and felt like he had some reason to believe that you would have approved it the second time since you approved it the first time. So
It's instructional that perhaps we should be more willing to deny a project.
There you go.
That's sort of what I was saying.
Okay, can I ask?
We do appreciate trying to work to get to yes, but sometimes in our efforts to get there, we end up creating something that we really don't want and no one's really happy with, neither you nor the applicant. So it would be better just to start over.
Who dissented?
Commissioner Hardy.
He had a serious problem with the arbitrary and capricious standard and just did not feel that the applicant could overcome that very high standard. So he voted against it.
Interesting. All right, any other departmental reports? No. Mr. Hodges, anything happening on getting awards this summer or this year?
So we tentatively have that scheduled for October. It's still kind of a wait and see game right now, but we do have some really great applicants coming in, and we opened we left the application period open a little bit longer. So it'll be a good program when it happens.
Great, thank you.
Also, one other item, Chairman, is based on what we're seeing, it's likely we will be continuing on Zoom meetings at least to the end of the summer.
Oof. Okay, I miss you guys. I really do.
You're out.
All right, board member comments before we adjourn. Any board member comments?
No.
Bill,
Lorenzo, yes.
alrighty. I requested a package be dropped off. Was I missed or they didn't drop them off this month?
Uh-oh.
All right, should we bring up Dixie Highway? No, I'm only kidding.
No. No.
That was a joke. That was for Pam.
We apologize, Bob. We'll make sure that that doesn't happen again if you were missed. We did try to do deliveries, and if you were missed, it was an accident.
All righty. No, because it's just I'm sitting here and I'm like, I could have printed it out. But anyway, if we're staying with Zoom, I'm going to be away for August meeting, but I'll do my utmost to attend, Mr. Chairman, the August meetings. And I just got a question because I know we're on light code and all of that. And, I'm up and down these streets nonstop, but I'm seeing more and more as the months go by, people using rocks for their yards, driveways, everything. I mean, there's houses now in the historic districts that are just solid, rocks, no grass. How's that historically and all that fit into our historic neighborhoods and the rules and regulations and all of that?
Actually, in your first ordinance that you recommended approval, there was a
Right.
definition related to landscape area. And
Right.
there was some confusion in interpretation and application of that. And so that was clarified that you have a requirement for so much landscape area, and that landscape area is now clearly defined once this ordinance is adopted, that no more than 50% could be rocks or mulch. So
Great.
that is, and then we're going to also be looking at it in the broader perspective as part of the landscape update. So.
Yeah, because I noticed one of the,
between front yard and backyard?
So anywhere there's a landscape area, it's already in the code, but there was confusion because it's in different areas, it's not consolidated in each area. And you saw a lot of what we had in our definitions and in our other things. It's a replication
Right.
of things so that it links together and you can see the picture. If you're in one section of the code, it's either going to refer you or it's going to clarify that in that section of code. So we wanted to go ahead and put, because there had been some confusion about that. Also too, there's been some folks who've just gone ahead and done it without a permit.
correct.
So that would be there's a code enforcement component, but we're gonna really make sure that's super clear. It is not permitted currently. And we're gonna make sure that that's really clear in the next update. And then as part of this, we put, as part of the landscape area definition, we put the standard of what a landscape area is, and it's not an entire rock area.
Great.
Excellent, and excellent question, Mr. Durenzo. Good
Thank
question.
you, sir.
Okay, any board member comments?
I have a question about the property on South Lakeside that was supposed to be demolished because it was
Oh, yeah,
old. Whatever happened with that?
the mold house.
Oh, the sick house.
Not a
I
word.
do not have an update for that, but as far as I'm aware, we've not received a demolition permit for that.
It's still sitting there.
Yeah, and I was wondering, in that situation, the owner came forward with reports from various inspectors or whatever that made statements regarding the condition of the house. Is there a way that we can have like an approved list or a list of approved contractors for situations like that, so you have some control over the accreditations of these people that prepare these reports?
What I'll say is that if you have the accreditations, it's very hard to question that contractor as to whether or not what they're doing is appropriate. We do have the ability to hire our own assessment or contractor to assess a building. We've talked about that quite often with the Planning and Zoning Board when there's items that we aren't able to evaluate appropriately at the staff level. I think that in this case, if it were to come up again, we would hire our own expert to look at it. Because Peter Ringel, the building official, and I are struggling right now because we've had engineers who are licensed by the state, have all their credentials, sign and seal stuff, have provided documentation to the city for structural issues and electrical that are totally and completely in violation of the code. So we're in the process of turning both of those individuals in. So even though you may have a license and you may have a little stamp and letters behind your name, does not necessarily mean that you are on the up and up. And so I agree with you, Ms. Justice. We have some issues. We are going to be able to hire our own person and then possibly even charge that back to the applicant.
Okay, thank you.
In
Interesting.
the same situation that she was talking about, this was really imperative because it was making everybody sick and yada, yada, we went through the whole thing and it's still there. So, I mean, is there not a timeline you can, or a limit you can put on these things on how long they can stretch them out?
Well, this person will have a year. Otherwise, we're going to have to come back to Jordan and Abraham to get an extension. And if they haven't demonstrated an active movement toward the furtherance of getting a building permit, they may lose their approval.
Okay, thank you.
Good. All right. Any other board member comments? I just want to say once more, I think the website is fantastic with the mapping and all of the information that's on the website now. It's wonderful. Go use it. All right.
Thank you, Keith.
Do I hear a motion for adjournment? Nobody wants to adjourn?
Yeah, I'm motion for adjournment.
Second, anybody? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you, guys.
Next
Stay
month.
safe. Bye, all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Judy.
Bye-bye. I just got in now. I can't figure out how to leave.
Well, you can stay with me. Bye-bye.
Work, mouse.
Well, neighbor,
There it is.